Hello all you MOBA loving cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic and today we're going to be taking a preview look at Gigantic. Now Gigantic is an upcoming third-person MOBA in development by Motiga and being published by Perfect World Entertainment. Gigantic is set in this fantasy world where you are one faction and the other team is the other faction, and you are assisted in battle by giant beings known as Guardians. Now the aim of each match is to destroy the other Guardian with you by using your Guardian, and when your Guardian pins them down you are to attack weak spots on the other enemy's Guardians. So it's essentially like very similar to a normal MOBA in that instead of bases you have Guardians. The difference is Guardians will move around the map, they will attack the enemy Guardian, they will attack enemy players who stray too close, and there's nothing mechanically different in essence about Guardians to that of a traditional MOBA base, but there's something aesthetically pleasing about guarding and fighting alongside this gigantic living being rather than having a static structure. Now, as I said, the game is currently in closed beta, and originally when I first looked at the game it was in alpha. And at the time, a lot of people didn't really like the look of Gigantic in its alpha form. That was mainly due to the maps and just the sheer amount of things that they had going on. Now, one part of that problem was the art style. It is a fantastic art style, it's vibrant, it's colourful, but when you have so much going on, it gets a little bit hectic, and it runs into the problem that games like Battleborn had in terms of its visual art style. This time, in the closed beta thus far, the art style still remains, but it's been toned down, it looks a lot cleaner. I've noticed that they've dramatically changed the maps, so they're more in line with traditional MOBA style maps. There's a little bit of difference here and there. For example, they are vertical maps, so you can jump, you can get onto ledges, cliff edges to rain down fire on opponents. But for the most part now, they are strictly in that MOBA style map where you have one Guardian one side of the map, the other Guardian on the other side of the map. You have various points to capture in between those two, and then as the Guardians move forward the map somewhat changes slightly, but it's massively scaled down to what it was previously. It flows better, it's more streamlined, you have a clear inclination of what you're supposed to be doing within the confines of your team as you're going in, rather than before where it was very chaotic, it was messy, there were so many things that you needed to do in terms of objectives on the map that it was difficult to know what to do when, whereas now it's a much streamlined experience and it's all better for it. Like any other MOBA, the game works off a character roster system, so you have several characters available to you currently in closed beta, including melee characters, ranged characters, and each one specializing in a certain playstyle. So you can have melee characters who are hit and run, you can have tank melee characters, you can have sniping ranged characters, you can have defensive machine gun, which is probably one of my favorite characters, which is the HK robot character who has basically a Gatling gun on one arm and a rocket propelled grenade on the other arm, and you can just fire rockets and machine gun down enemies while staying in a static position. And it reminds me very much of Bastion from Overwatch, because you're able to move around in a certain way and then you're able to transform yourself into a turret, remain grounded and just fire away, and that is a lot of fun for me. I have to say, as MOBAs go, I am one of those people who likes certain MOBAs, but then other MOBAs come along and you think, oh, this is just the same old thing. For me, Gigantic does something very, very well in that it executes its core gameplay very well, in the sense that you're playing a MOBA, you're playing a third-person MOBA, there's third-person shooter elements, there's RPG elements in terms of the traditional MOBA progression, so as you play out your matches you will gain levels and you're able to equip instead of having items or gaining new abilities as you progress, what you are able to do is change your current abilities in some form. So maybe you can add a percentage of damage to one ability, or you can add an effect to an AoE ability, and it all works very, very well. I have to say that it's streamlined, it's fluid, and it looks great. The entire game looks fantastic. It is very, very appealing. The sound is good, you know, the visuals are good, the gameplay itself is good, and it feels like a solid MOBA. The game is going to be free to play, and obviously with that comes a free to play store. Now, the way Gigantic Store is currently put in the system is that you earn rubies and you earn crowns from playing matches and completing daily objectives. The way the daily objectives work is it's a card system. It's basically any old quest system, but instead you are able each day to draw a card, and you are able to select a card that will have a quest on it, and you're able to, you know, so for example, kill 10 enemies in a match or something like that, and you're able to then complete that quest once per day, draw a new card the next day, and you will gain experience, you will gain rubies and crowns, and then you can use rubies and crowns to purchase characters on a consistent basis. If you don't want to spend any money and you don't want to use the crowns and rubies to unlock characters, then you will have a rotating system of characters each week. Now, I'm going to tell you the thing I love most about Gigantic before I get into the negatives. So the thing that I love about Gigantic most of all is the Guardians. I think there's so much potential that has barely begun to scratch the surface in this game, that you could have some really interesting modes, interesting matches, interesting just moments in a traditional third-person MOBA game that you wouldn't have otherwise. Now, because Guardians themselves are living, breathing beings, and they already move around the map as the match progresses, you could do some really interesting things with them, like for example having an ultimate for a character that's able to call down a Guardian strike, or they could do some really interesting things of having a battle overhead while you're fighting the normal enemies and the two Guardians are locked into it. And there's just so many things that you can do. It looks great, and it feels a lot more tense than it does in a traditional MOBA where you just have a base and a structure to protect. In this one, you know, the Guardian is real, it's a living being, it talks to you as you are playing the match. You know, it's through the Guardian's power that you are respawned if you die, and so they speak to you saying, oh, you know, I will respawn you, fear not, that kind of thing. And it's a lot of fun. I really like the overall aesthetic. I think the idea behind the world, the setting, it looks brilliant, and that is probably the biggest selling point for me as a player, is the fact that it's nothing massively innovative, but it's a nice little slant on the genre that I think is a lot of fun to play. Now I'm going to tell you the downside of the game, and it is some stupid business decisions that I, for the life of me, cannot understand. The downsides currently are nothing to do with the actual core gameplay. For me, the core gameplay is solid, it's fluid, it's a lot of fun. The problem is that they've just recently released the game on Windows 10 Store, as well as being on Perfect World's little store, the Arc Games launcher, and it's going to be on Xbox One. Now, the problem is that Windows 10 Store users can fight against Xbox One users on the same battlefield. However, players using the Arc launcher on PC will not be able to play with Windows 10 or Xbox One users. So you're splitting your player base right down the middle. You say you can use Windows 10 or Xbox One, or you can use Arc. That is a massive problem. Why the hell have they done that? So you're essentially having two versions of the same game on the same platform, the Windows 10 and the Arc version. It doesn't make any sense, because not only can you not play with your friends then if they don't have an Arc code. I mean, yes, the game is free to play currently, but it means that if people like myself don't like the Windows 10 store for numerous reasons, including all the crap that you have to go through with Xbox Live and all that kind of thing, then and you have a friend who does enjoy using the Windows 10 store, you're not going to be able to play the same game, even though you are playing the same game. It is the most mind-boggling thing. I don't understand that whatsoever, and it doesn't make any sense. And it also means that if Gigantic comes to Steam, Steam users and Windows 10 Store users won't be able to play. So you've potentially drawn a line right down the middle of your player base for no good reason, other than, I assume the reason is that Microsoft won't let you do it. So why are you using their Windows 10 Store then? It doesn't make sense. This game has the potential to be multi-cross-platform. You have PC users playing with Xbox One users, and if you brought it to the PlayStation 4, we could play with the PlayStation 4 players. There's no reason why you couldn't. It's a game that's easily adaptable for that. And yet, you have this system in place currently where you have divided your PC player base right down the middle for no good reason. And that really annoys me. For me, it's just a decision that makes absolutely no sense, especially for a game that, lives and breathes on having and retaining a player base for the multiplayer. It doesn't make sense to just siphon them off that way and make sure that they can't crossplay. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, especially on the same bloody platform. Now, the next closed beta test hasn't been announced yet. It will no doubt be in the near future. If you would like to grab a code for Ark, I'm giving a couple of them away, so you can click the link in the description below and you'll be able to enter the giveaway for that. You can also go to the Windows 10 Store if you fancy that, and download the game for free. So that is my preview of Gigantic. Thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I will see you next time.